out on the highway, throw myself a ride. Been too long in New York City, my mind is a taking a ride. I wanna go back to Texas, the cosmic cowgirls play. I wanna have some fun in a good old Texas way. Down in Groovin's paradise, Groovin's paradise, Groovin's paradise. Groovin's paradise. Groovin's paradise.
Come on in, folks. Make yourself at home.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to our third episode. It's been a couple of weeks since we did the last one. Just a lot of stuff going on, but I'm really glad to be back working here with Will, who is continues to up the production values on all of this. And man, we're getting ready for the second round of Record Store Day, which will come 2 weeks from this coming Saturday, which will be June 17th. Some of the stuff is already making its way towards us, and we'll probably do a video next week and the week after about stuff that's going to be available for sale on July 17th. But this week, we're going to, there's probably 5,000 records in this store. And most of them are just records. They're just records to be bought and enjoyed, and there's nothing nothing rare or significant about them in a lot of ways, or if it is, the demand for those rare records is not really as high as for some. But we do have some records in the store that are kind of collectible, and we're going to be talking about that and what makes a record collectible, and we may even I don't think, I've never thought of records as an investment, but because it's always just instant gratification to me. But that's a thing too, and we'll talk about some pieces that maybe would work in that vein as well. So we're going to start with a piece that sort of illustrates how how fickle the record collecting business can be. Now this is a record by the Flamingos. It's their first album. It's the one with their biggest hit, I Only Have Eyes for You. This record is in absolutely extraordinary shape. It has these great rubber stamps on it that Anita Marshall owned this record, and it's got her, doesn't have her whole address. Anita was smart enough to value her privacy, but Anita bought this record far enough back that the phone code has a 2 letters before the third number, which was the way they used to do it back in the day. So, I Only Have Eyes for You, one of the greatest songs of all time, classic song. And, of course, in 1955, I think, when this record came out, 54, the album really wasn't a thing. But they eventually put together an album with the hit on it and with Goodnight Sweetheart and all of their other songs on it. And it came out, but, people had those singles. They had the ones they wanted. So, huge record, iconic songs, but this album probably didn't sell that much. So over the years, this has become, amongst doo-wop collectors, a really hard album to get. And, when we opened up 6 years ago in 2015, this was one in our first batch of records that we had in the store, and I thought, man, that's such a great record, and I think $100 is a fair price on it. That's the book value at that point, but this record's in absolutely wonderful shape, so I'm going to go with it. And 6 years down the line, it's still here. And you might go, well, why is that? It's such a cool record. And the sad fact of the matter is that most of the people that are interested in this record have left us. You know, the doo-wop is just kind of a dead genre. I mean, it's still used in films and stuff, and people still enjoy it and listen to it. But as far as contemporary music collectors, there's just not a huge market for doo-wop. It's like big band records, and eventually, it's possible that some rock records will become like that. Though rock has continued on much longer than anybody anticipated it would. So anyway, that's the Flamingos, and that kind of shows you, you know, I thought I had a gold mine, and I love having this record in here, but really nobody's interested in it. But there are records that I have that are priced higher than that there is some interest for, and I do sell. I have sold several records that I sold for more than $100, but not that Flamingos record.
Feel like I'm knocking on heaven's door.
So here we're going to move on. Now we're going to talk about what makes records collectible and why certain pressings are collectible and stuff like that. And we're just going to talk about each record individually. This is an Elvis Costello record called Our Aim Is True. And this is a record, it's a bootleg or a gray market record, if you want to call it that. This one really made an effort to look legit. They even came up with a fake Stiff Records logo, but it is not a legitimate release. But it is Elvis Costello at the very beginning of his career. It's got, none of the songs have been released. There's a song on it called Radio Soul, where he does the song Radio Radio. It's a very early version of that. This is really a cool piece. But, you know, it's not a legitimate release, so bootlegs in general don't go for as much, even though they may be even rarer than legitimate studio records. They generally don't go for as much. And this, a little research will tell you that this is actually the second run of this bootleg. If it was the first run, it'd probably be double in price. But it's still very rare. There's not much of it out there. And if you're an Elvis Costello completist, this is something you'd like. And it's priced pretty reasonably at $50, I think.
Let me start off with a basket of chips. I then move on to the polos.
Now here's one that's a lot more expensive, and you might wonder why. It's Ween, the pod, with an absolutely terrific cover, Best of Leonard Cohen reimagined. And this is their, I think it's their debut record. I'm sure somebody's going to correct me on that. But it's one of their first two records. It's on the Shimmy Disc label, which I believe at the time was owned by the guy in Bogwater, and he worked with Jad Fair as well. And it's after a while, when Ween began to get more popular, these records were bought by Elektra, and they came out through Elektra, but in very limited quantities as well. And again, this is the Shimmy Disc one, and it's in great shape. And there just were not that many of these. You know, I mean, let's be honest, Ween was a very much a cultish act at this point in their careers. I saw them about a year and a half after this record, and they still didn't have a band with them. It was just Dean and Gene and a 4-track machine, and they were still asking people to bring them food to the gigs because they weren't eating very well. So anyway, you know, Ween is a huge act now, and therefore these records that existed in such limited quantity have grown in value. So this is a really good Ween record too. It's got everything. It's got the cover, It's got this kind of cool packaging that absolutely lets you know that this is an original pressing, and it's in immaculate shape. So for a record like this, if you really want it, you're not going to find it. So $250 sounds like a lot of money, but in the collector's market, it's not. And like I say, we don't really run a collector's shop here, but we do like to have some collector's stuff in here because people are always surprised when they see something like that. And we're glad to have it. Now here's another example of a record where there's outside circumstances. This is Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Abbey Road EP. Now, if anyone knows me at all, you know that I didn't price it at $100 out of love. You know, this is an EP that they did, I think it came out after the Uplift Mofo party plan. It's got Hendrix's Fire on it. It's got their version of Africa by the Meters called Hollywoods. True Men Don't Kill Coyotes. I believe that's the, that might be no, that's not a live record. It's just, it's a few album tracks, but it has this iconic cover. And when this record came out, it came out on EP, and it also came out on cassette. And I can tell you from experience that working in a record store at that point, most of the Chili Peppers fans were buying their releases either on cassette or on the emerging compact disc thing. And because this was just an EP and it only has the one unreleased track on it, some people just didn't buy it at all. So here you go. There's just not that many of them out there. And it has this iconic cover, you know, the Abbey Road thing, and non-LP track of Fire, which is a Hendrix cover, of course, and of course any sort of cross-pollination like that always adds to the value of a record. So, you know, you got 5 songs, $20 a piece. That may sound outrageous for you, but you're not going to see that anywhere else. So this is a copy of Queens of the Stone Age, and this is rated R, but this is rated X. This is a British pressing of it. So it is got a bonus track on it. It's on limited edition vinyl and gatefold, and it's also very, very rare. But the difference is, this was a very popular Kings of the Stone Age record, rated R was. So this version of it is going to bring $150 sealed, man. I mean, that's a brand new record, and you just don't see it at all. So there you go. Here's another Queens of the Stone Age record. This is Songs for the Deaf. But as you can tell, it's not the regular cover from Songs for the Deaf. And this is a limited edition cover. I believe it's on red vinyl as well. And it's just, this is a hard record to find. And it's one of those where I went, God, I gotta go on the internet and see what something like this is going for. And man, $200 was it across the board. This one's in great shape, and if you're a fan, this is probably, I mean, rated R and this one are their 2 records that you gotta have. And this one's, you know, I guess that's a little spermy right there. Real cute, makes a cue. Very cool. Now here's a record that the old man likes. It's from 1980. Killing Joke. This came out in the what I would call the post-punk era. Man, this was as loud and clanky and dark as that whole scene got. But they did have they also had a bit of a melodic gift. So this record is just really, really good and really intense. You'll know the song "The Weight." Metallica did it on their Garage Days record, and that gives you an idea of the intensity of this, because I mean, this is not a metal band at all. These guys are art school English guys, but they are beating the hell out of their instruments on this, and it is, I mean, it's a great dark ride, and it's rare. And because of the Metallica connection, I mean, an average Killing Joke record would probably go for, and it's their best one too, so by a long shot. But an average Killing Joke title would probably go for between $25 and $30. But because this one has the Metallica connection, and it's such a great record, and there's so few of them out there, it's a $75 record. And you know what? This one's worth every dime of that. Really great record. Now here's three records by Jane's Addiction. And, you know, again, sometimes the logic, you know, you do your research on the internet, and the pricing logic just doesn't make sense to you. So this is Ritual de lo Habitual, their second record for Warner Brothers, and the final record that they made in that first incarnation of the band. It's a highly anticipated record, and it did very, very well. But this cover bothered the mass merchants. So Warner Brothers came up with the idea of an alternative cover, and boy, it's really a good one. But the thing that kind of puzzles me is, I really think that there's still more of these out there than this. So this is actually probably the rarer version of it, but because it's so fucking plain, this bad boy here, with all the great artwork and everything else on it, is the preferred one. If you just want the record, I mean, buy this one for $50. But most people don't just want the record. They want this whole cover, and, you know, I mean, it's banned, so that gives it extra appeal too. So, you know, this one goes for $175 on the internet. And then this is their first one, which came out on Triple X Records, which was, interestingly enough, a Dallas label. And this is their first record that's just called, I think it's called Jane Says. Is that what this one's called? Let me see. No, it's just called Jane's Addiction. So, but it has an early version of Jane Says on it. It's got their version of Lou Reed's Rock and Roll. It's got Pigs and Zim, which I think showed up on one of the later records too. And you know, this is and people didn't really know what to make of this record when it came out. It was a blast of a different kind of sound, and I saw them. This record had been out for a while, and it was, I think I saw them right before the Warner Brothers record came out, but it might have been right after Nothing Shocking came out. But they opened for Iggy Pop, and they were just fantastic. In fact, Iggy was really good that night, even though he was promoting one of his worst records. But it's probably the best time I ever saw him. And if he hadn't been 100% on his game, Jane's Addiction would have blown him off the stage, and that just doesn't happen to Iggy. It didn't at that point anyway. So this is a great record, and it's very rare because it was an import, and after they signed to Warner Brothers. They never reissued it. So it's just really, it's not an import. It was on XXX and distributed through an import distributor called Important, that by this point in the probably mid to late 80s was becoming more of an American independent label distributor than a record importer, but I still kind of think of them as an import distributor in my mind, and so I think of the records I bought from them back then as imports, but they're really not. Anyway, here's another one of those records that came out in that gap period when nobody was putting records out, mid-90s. This is a very limited vinyl run of the first Foo Fighters record. I can't imagine that there's more than 3,000 or 4,000 of these out there. And you know, this is, in some ways, this is the all Dave Foo Fighters. Dave plays everything on the record, and in some ways it's my favorite of their records. I love the song This It's the Call on here. And got a great cover. And again, you know, when this record first came out, and these limited pressings on vinyl were available, the Foo Fighters, you know, Dave was coming off the Nirvana stuff, but when I saw the Foo Fighters at that period, they were headlining a small club in the Deep Ellum district of Dallas. They were not a huge band. They were just starting out. And of course, by the time their next two records hit, which were the huge breakthrough records for them, any vinyl copies of this record were long gone. So it's very hard to get. And this is the original. They haven't tarted it up or put it on extra vinyl or anything. This is the original 1995 pressing of that. And it's $150, but I think that's a pretty good deal.
Love me 2 times, girl, 'cause I got 8.
This is the Dead Milkmen, Dead Big Lizard in My Backyard. And this record's expensive because there were a couple hits off here, Bitchin' Camaro, and another one that just is not even proper to say on television anymore, so we won't. But they're a novelty act, you know, and they're sort of a punk rock novelty act. And I'll be honest, you know, this is another band that just sort of went over my head at the time. But the people that were 5 years younger than me were loving them because this fit right into their zeitgeist and sense of humor. And the thing about this record is, again, it's got a completely iconic cover. It's got their biggest song, Bitchin' Camaro, on it. And this was a record that they put out on their own little label, Fever Records, and it was distributed through Enigma Records, which was a really happening metal and independent label at the time. They had Slayer. I mean, they were hot. And man, they just went belly up. Just completely gone by like 1990. And these records never resurfaced on vinyl. I'm not even sure what the CD availability on these records is, because a lot of that Enigma stuff, you just can't get it all anymore. But the fact of the matter is that there's a lot of people for whom this record is just a big old slice of nostalgia. And you know, that's another one that would talk about all of this stuff and how each record has a different engine that sort of fuels it, and nostalgia is always an underlying engine. But this one is you know, there's not that much compelling musically on this record to draw you back to it after 35 years. But you know, the memories of ripping 25 bong hits and listening to this record and then going to a midnight movie or whatever, you know, they're vivid in everybody's mind. So here's a record that you know, musically, it's probably a $60 record because of its rarity and what it is. You know, it's a novelty record. But man, you throw that nostalgia thing in it, which that for a lot of people, man, this is one of those records that people that even don't have record players, when they come in the store, they pull this one out and show it to each other and everything. It's just a record that means a lot to people that were in college at that point. So on the internet, you're getting $150 for it, and that's what we're asking for it here. Now here's another record that's priced at $150, and Beck, Mellow Gold. This record's not very good either. I mean, it's okay, but I mean, the difference from this record and Odelay and the stuff that followed it is just so night and day. You know, Loser is just such a great song. But this record is him trying to just sort of embody that personality on his record. And it, you know, it's a sort of a failed slacker inspired thing. But again, I mean, Loser it's an incredibly iconic song. It launched the career of what, you know, some people will argue is one of the most significant artists. I think anybody can agree that Beck is one of the more significant artists of the last 25 years, even though, you know, his records are hot and cold very often. And this is kind of in the cold stack, but it has its charms, and it is rare. And Beck is one of those artists that he's so popular that there are some completists out there that are going to have this. And again, it's rarity. This was a record that came out in 1994, and they just weren't making vinyl back then. So to put this out on vinyl, it actually came out on a different label than the CD and cassette came out on. It came out on Bong Load Records, which was basically a record that a label that Beck created just to put Mellow Gold out, and he had the other record on there too. Can't remember. But then Universal bought it and put out the CD and the cassette, but never put out the LP. So here you go. It's a very rare piece. Nothing special about it. It comes with the lyric sheet, and that's about it. But it's $150, and again, if you're a Beck fan, you got to have it. Finally, we're going to look at Against Me. We got a lot of Against Me records, and this is other than the last record where Laura Grace sort of makes a concept record about her transition and her life, her current life as a woman. This was when she was identifying as a guy. Tom, I can't remember his last name, but it comes with a poster. And you know, these are really good records, and this is the best of their early records. It's their, I believe it's the first record. It's called Reinventing Axl Rose, and they're just an act with a lot of attention focused on them right now, and deservedly so. And Laura Jean Grace is a provocative and inspiring figure, and I'm not really sure what's going to happen with these records in the future. You know, I do know that when Wendy Carlos transitioned from Walter Carlos to Wendy Carlos, she asked Columbia to go back and correct the covers as the records came into repressing, as they ran out of what they had on stock, as they were repressed. She asked that the covers reflect her current gender and that she identified as, which was a Wendy Carlos. And they've done that for over 40 years now, I think. So are all the Against Me records going to be changed to credit Laura Jean Grace as the main songwriter and vocalist and guitar player on these records? I mean, I don't know. But if they do, then these records, which are valuable in themselves because they're hard to get, are going to get even more valuable. But again, as I've said, I'm not sure. I've never bought records as an investment. I always buy records for instant gratification. But if I was going to buy a series of records for an investment, I might buy something like this, because it's quite possible that this record will never ever exist in this form again. So $75. It comes with this, like I say, really cool poster, and it's got a great cover on it, and it's on purple vinyl as well. Like, that makes much difference. But anyway, a very interesting, provocative band and rock star, and like I say, it's generally regarded as their finest early record anyway. Reinventing Axl Rose. Now we're getting to this section. We're going to talk just kind of in general about these a few records that we have here from Third Man Records Record Club, and these are some cool ones. This is, I think, for me, probably the coolest one. This is Captain Beefheart Trout Mask Replica, and this comes in a tote bag, a Trout Mask Replica tote bag, which, what could be cooler with the, and it actually contains an actual trout mask in it as well. I'll be honest, I haven't opened it up to check all of that stuff out, because if you know me, you know that folding this bag back into this plastic bag is would probably kill me. So I haven't even tried to do that. But I do know that, let's just come right out and say it, that Trout Mask Replica is one of the most interesting records ever made. Certainly a record that had a huge impact on me as a kid. And this is a great pressing of it, pressed up on 180 gram vinyl. I don't know if there was any remastering done or not, but I know that Third Man does great work. So, you know, I mean, you pay $125 for a third pressing of the original Trout Mask. So, I mean, this is a very fair price, I think, for what you get. And, God, you know, if you're a record guy and you don't have Trout Mask Replica in your collection, you're struggling. So now we're going to look at 3 records by the Raconteurs, because Jack likes to self-promote through his thing. So here's a live record, live in Tulsa, and this becomes it comes with a flexi disc, and it also comes with a live Blu-ray thing of Jack and doing acoustic numbers, and it's a live Raconteurs record, so it kind of serves as a greatest hits too. It's live at Kane's Ballroom in Tulsa, and you know, these records, they come out, they're limited, and they're gone. And with a band is like the Raconteurs with Jack White in it, again, you know, do you buy records for investments? I don't, but if I did, I'd be looking at these things too, because they're very limited editions. You know, a couple thousand pressings, and when they're gone, they're gone. So you've got Raconteurs live in Tulsa. And this is the second Raconteurs record. And this comes with a, I think this comes with a single. I'm not sure. Oh, it comes with all kinds of, it comes with stickers and a patch and all kinds of cool stuff. And there is a single inside. This one's actually still sealed. It's never been opened. And that one is, this is their second record, Consolers of the Lonely, which is actually my favorite of their records. And it's $250. That's pretty much the only way you can get it. So moving on, this is their third record, the Raconteurs, their most recent one, Help Us Stranger. And this has a single of Help Me Stranger. And it's got a slip, a record slip mat, and a bandana in here. And it's their most recent record, which contains their great cover of Hey Gyp, Dig the Slowness. And this one hasn't really started to climb up yet, so it's priced at $125. And again, you know, these are probably going to continue to increase in value. Finally, here's the big boy. This is Jack White live at Bonnaroo in 2014. It's a looks like it's a 3-record set with a whole bunch of other goodies in there. To probably, I'm not sure what all's in here. Probably a DVD and like that. We'll open it up when you come, if you're interested in this one. But if you're looking for a sort of a de facto Jack White Stripes overview, and you know, of course, he's always great live anyway. And this is in front of, you know, hundreds of thousands of people at Bonnaroo. It's going to be an exciting performance. And again, great, spectacular packaging. $250 for this 3-record set. And you won't see it anywhere else. So that kind of wraps things up on that. And, you know, I would just say, we did this so that people that are looking for records like this can watch this and see, and people that want to become record collectors can see. But you don't have to be a record collector to enjoy records. And, you know, don't think that buying records is out of your price range when you see stuff like that. Because we got lots of records in here that are priced from $5 all the way up to $40 that are just great records. So I'm really happy to have this collectible stuff because it gives another dimension to the store, which I welcome. But don't be intimidated by it. By the same token, don't be intimidated by spending that much money on a record that you want, because you know what? Chances are you're not going to see it again. And 5 years down the line, when you still want it and you haven't seen it, you're going to regret that you didn't buy it when you did see it. So there's that. Like I say, next week, I'm so glad that we're able to get back to doing this. Will has been such a great help. He really helped me out last week in some personal business that I had to take care of, and that's one of the reasons why we didn't do one last week. So I really appreciate just having him around, and you know, he's does such a great job with this. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I know they always ask you to do this, but if you would like us or subscribe to us if you liked it, then please do that, you know, because apparently YouTube does pay attention to that, and in some ways I think it's better when they're not paying attention to me. But if they, you know, I wouldn't mind having us go viral at some point, and hopefully it's not me having a stroke while I'm talking about records that I do or don't like. But anyway, next week we're gonna do our record store day previews. We may do them all in one sitting. We'll just have to see what we got. It's 4th of July this weekend. Oh, let me tell you that too. Sunday is the 4th, so we're going to stay open the 5th. Monday, which we're normally closed, will also be open on Sunday the 4th. But we're going to be closed Tuesday, like we always are, and we're going to close Wednesday the 6th next week so that I can get some stuff done. But we look forward to seeing you out here. It's 4th of July at the Oasis. It doesn't get much better. One year we had a plane crash out here. I don't want to promise that every year, but you know, so just, you never know what you're going to get when you come to the Oasis, and you want to be sure to come see us at Groover's Paradise. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, tune in next week. We'll see you. Bye-bye.